Hi, I'm Shannon, back from houseimprovements.com, and today I want to just show you kind of the first steps in building and designing your own deck. Really the first possible things is your planning stage. So you need to make sure that you've got the space to do it, what size you want to build the deck, what materials you're going to make it out of, and then finally also you need to think about structure. You need to know the size of materials you need as far as the joists, the beams, the posts holding it up. So we're going to touch on that. This will be basically the first video in our series on building a deck, and we'll just kind of start out with this. So we've got a typical 1990 something bungalow here. It's got a kind of a wood siding on it, kind of an X90 type siding. Pretty standard. You might have vinyl, you might have stucco. I'll try to address a few of those different options as we go along here. So the homeowner at an earlier point has removed the deck that was here originally, and those stairs you see there are just temporary so they could get in and out for the time being. In the meantime, since the deck was gone, they had a concrete pad poured here. So we'll be building the deck right over top of the pad, so it'll sit on the pad. So for that case, we won't be drilling any kind of piles because our posts will sit right on the concrete. In most cases, most municipalities would require your deck to possibly be on either concrete piles below the frost line or screw piles or something like that. So you just want to check with your municipality to be sure what they require. Also, while we're talking about the posts that support the deck, generally speaking, most times those should be anchored to the ground somehow, even if you're not required to be on piles. You may want to do that just so it's anchored to the ground, and that's more of a situation for high wind areas, tornadoes, cyclones, that sort of thing, just so the deck can actually physically be picked up and tossed as an object of destruction. So most areas will require it to be fastened to the ground. So in this case, we're fastening the deck, one edge anyways, the ledger board, to the house, and then it'll sit out at this edge on some wooden 6x6 posts on a beam. You might be building your deck freestanding, so you might have a couple, 2 or 3 beams and sets of posts, and your deck will be away from the house or any other structure. So it just kind of depends a little bit what you're doing. So back to our case, one of the first things you kind of want to think about is obviously the size of the deck, the design, the shape, that sort of thing. That's really all left up right to your imagination, so you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. If you're kind of the first time doing anything like this, you might want to stay fairly basic, but if you're adventurous and you want to take the chance, you could do arches and angles and anything you want. So you can also incorporate pergolas or roof system into it. This particular one will not have that, but that's all stuff to think about when you're designing your plan. Something else then would be what types of materials you want to use. Most cases you want to use something that's rot resistant, is going to last for a long time. You wouldn't want to use just spruce lumber or just normal fir or anything like that. You wanted to use pressure treated lumber, maybe cedar, composites, and there's even actually for the joists, you can even get metal joists now for them. Now that may be overkill for most people, one for the cost and one for that those joists are going to last forever, but if you've got the budget to do that, it might be worth looking into. In our case here, we're going to use all pressure treated material, including the top deck. There is situations where you could use a different product for the actual finished deck that you see in the railings. You've got the composites, like I mentioned before. Railings, you've got all kinds of options there too, from pressure treated to cedar to aluminum. There's PVCs and vinyls and composites as well there. So like I said, check out your materials, decide what you want to kind of do, and go from there as far as choosing what you want to make it out of. One of the next things you want to think about is how is it going to attach to the deck, or sorry, to the house. In our case, that's what we're doing. So you can kind of see actually the old deck here. You can see the marks from it being painted or stained at one time. So you can tell that the ledger board originally was placed right over the siding, and that's really incorrect. You shouldn't have the siding between the ledger board, which in our case is going to be a pressure treated 2x10, and the rim joist of the house. So one of the first steps when we get to actually starting the framing of this deck is we're going to cut that siding out. We'll determine the height we need. We'll cut the siding off. We'll put a flashing up underneath there and then mount our ledger board. So these are all things you need to think about. Maybe you've got a brick home or that's going to be concrete where you're mounting. So again, then you're going to be looking at different fastening systems than what we're doing. We're using ledger heavy screws or bolts, basically. You can use leg bolts, that sort of thing, or you can bolt it right through even. One of the things also when you're dealing with pressure treated or even cedar lumber is you want to make sure all the fasteners you use are compatible to the product. Sorry, my pages are flapping here. So yeah, they want to be compatible to the product. In pressure treated lumber, the stuff that they inject into it to give it that pressure treating and that lasting ability is actually corrosive to a lot of just normal metals. And same thing with cedar, actually naturally is corrosive to just standard shiny steel. So you want to use things like hot dip galvanized bolts and screws, fasteners. Also, as far as screws goes, they've got the coated screws now. You usually see them, they're usually green. AQC, I believe, is what they're kind of called. Stainless steel is fine. I mentioned the hot dip. And, you know, those sorts of things need to be talked about, and your lumber store can help you out with that as well. They should have the right products and know what you require to use with it so that you're not rotting it off. Normal deck screws, normal bolts don't need to be used, or shouldn't be used, sorry. They're going to eventually fail. So make sure you're using the right fasteners, the right brackets, all that kind of stuff. Okay, normal galvanized, most people think that's all right. It's actually not. There is a galvanized material that can be used, but it has to be specific for pressure treated and cedar. So again, just be sure you're using the right stuff. So once you've got your basic design planned, and when you're doing that, you're going to want to draw it out. I don't know that you're really going to see this, but I kind of drew out what my framing is going to look like, the shape of the deck. This is more the preliminary one, just with a little bit of sizing on it and where the stairs are going to be, that sort of thing. So you know, it's always nice to have those to reference to even as you're building or trying to order materials. So draw it out, make up a sketch, whatever you want to do, get it in your mind exactly what's going to happen, and that'll help you out a long ways, and like I said, give you something to reference to. Okay, so we've got the design, the size, everything. We've talked about, you know, options for mounting it to the home. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I can't think of anything else. And like I said, this is kind of just the first video in our whole deck building series. So check out all the videos, and that way you'll catch anything that I might have forgotten in this one. If something doesn't quite jive with your plan, or maybe I've missed a subject here that doesn't specifically deal with this deck but does with yours, and you need a question answered on it, you can always go to our forum at www.house-improvements.com, and from there you can find the forum and just click up write up your question, and I'll be sure to answer it, or somebody even, we've got some helpful people on the forum as well that kind of follow along most days and can help you out maybe with some suggestions as well. And other than that, I hope you do watch all the rest of the videos, and if you have any questions, like I said, post them up on the forum.